Sage Art Wood Release. True several thousand hands. This is the peak expression of Hashirama's power in Sage mode, and it is absolutely overwhelming in scale. Once Hashirama enters Sage mode, he creates a titanic wooden statue so massive that it completely dwarfs a full-size Kurama and even a Complete Body Susanoo. That comparison alone tells you everything about its size. This thing isn't large. It's colossal on a battlefield level. The statue has two main hands positioned in a prayer pose, while thousands of additional arms fan out from its back in countless concentric rows. Visually, it looks divine. Functionally, it's a war machine, and Hashirama can freely control it. The statue can fight on his behalf, defend him, and even serve as a platform to launch other techniques. Because of its sheer size, attacking Hashirama directly becomes almost impossible. You're not fighting a man anymore. You're fighting a mountain of living wood release backed by Sage mode amplification. And you know what? The statue can detach its central body from the massive cluster of arms to increase mobility when speed becomes necessary. That means it's not just a stationary fortress. It can actively reposition and respond to changing combat conditions. In terms of raw strength, the statue is absurd. It can grab a tailed beast with ease and physically restrain it, locking it in place so it cannot move against something like Kurama. That level of physical dominance is insane. This is the move that made Hashirama known as the god of shinobi. Wood release, wood human technique. Wood release. Wood human technique is where Hashirama stops flexing and starts demolishing god-tier opponents. This jutsu creates a gigantic humanoid structure with an Oni-like face, usually wrapped with a wooden dragon around its torso. The scale here is absurd. It's stated to be comparable in power to the Nine Tails itself, which means Hashirama can literally summon a kaiju that matches the strongest tailed beast in raw, destructive capacity. What makes this technique borderline unfair is the combo potential. The wooden dragon wrapped around the golem's torso can attack enemies directly, while the golem itself handles close combat, and the golem is sturdy enough to catch an uncompressed, tailed beast ball from Kurama, which is insane considering those things vaporize landscapes. The combat feats speak for themselves. This technique clashed against Madara's Complete Body Susanoo, which Madara himself admitted had destructive power, rivaling tailed beasts. Here's a practical detail that shows Hashirama's battle IQ if he doesn't have time to manifest the full golem. He can create just a limb or two to buy time for the complete form. The kicker. When Hashirama used Sage Art Wood Release True several thousand hands, the wood human was depicted sitting atop the statue's head, meaning this absolute unit of a golem becomes a helmet accessory for his strongest technique. That's how layered Hashirama's power scaling gets. Wood Release. Wood Dragon. Wood Dragon technique is where Hashirama stops playing around and starts draining souls. This jutsu spawns a gigantic wooden dragon. Serpentine body. Chinese dragon aesthetic. That can restrain, attack, and most importantly, absorb chakra, like a vampire biting into your neck. The design varies slightly. Sometimes it has an elephant trunk. Sometimes it doesn't, but the function stays brutal. Now here's the counterplay. Because nothing in Naruto is truly unbeatable if you destroy the dragon's head. Its chakra absorption gets eliminated. Both Naruto and Kurama countered it by destroying the head. Naruto with body flicker plus a move. Kurama with a tailed beast ball. Madara deflected it with Susanoo's sword. So yeah, it's strong. But if you have god-tier firepower or defense, you can deal with it. One insane detail in the anime. Hashirama can make the dragon detonate on command for a massive explosion. So even if you break free, he can just blow you up anyway. And when paired with wood human technique, the dragon wraps around the golem's torso, turning it into a dual-threat nightmare. Kakuan, Niten, Suishu. This is a control technique, and an absolutely terrifying one at that. This wood release ability is specifically designed to forcibly suppress a tailed beast's chakra, to completely shut it down. The mechanic is straightforward but insanely powerful. The user manifests the kanji sit in the palm of their hand. The moment they make physical contact with either a tailed beast or its jinchuriki, they can immediately suppress the chakra within a designated area, typically surrounded by 10 wooden pillars that act as a containment framework. It's structured, deliberate chakra, suppression, not random sealing. This technique works both before and during transformation. That's important. It means the user can intercept a Jinchuriki mid-rampage and forcefully stop the escalation. When Yamato used it against Naruto's Four Tails form, the situation was so unstable that Naruto needed to be wearing the first Hokage's necklace to help restrain Kurama's chakra. That detail alone shows how overwhelming the Nine Tails chakra output was and how much external support Yamato required to maintain suppression. Hashirama, however, operated on a completely different level. When he used this technique directly on a tailed beast instead of a Jinchuriki, he didn't even need the 10 pillars. He bypassed that entire setup and channeled the suppression through his wood-release wood human technique. That version didn't just suppress. It could literally overwrite Sharingan-based control over a tailed beast. In other words, even if an Uchiha was actively controlling the beast, Hashirama's wood release could completely take authority back. That's dominance. At its core, Kakuan is a control-type wood release that directly targets Biju-level chakra systems and forces them into submission. And in the hands of Hashirama, it becomes an absolutely overwhelming authority over tailed beasts themselves. Wood release advent of a world of flowering trees. The setup is classic Hashirama. Rapid forest growth across massive terrain. But these aren't regular trees. These are flowering trees that produce pollen, designed specifically to knock you unconscious. And the point is, the pollen penetrates Susanoo defenses. Think about that for a second. Susanoo, the ultimate chakra defense that tanks massive attacks, gets bypassed by pollen. What makes this jutsu so broken from a tactical perspective is the control Hashirama has over the pollen spread. He can manipulate where it goes, meaning his allies stay conscious while enemies drop like flies. The branches can also restrain targets during forest formation. So you can't even interrupt the setup. You're watching your death trap get built in real time. This technique basically solves the "how do you fight multiple opponents" problem instantly. Madara used this against the 5 Kage, and it worked. The only counters are staying airborne indefinitely or destroying the entire forest, both requiring insane chakra reserves most people don't have. Some people argue you can power through with enough willpower, but that's cope. Sure, maybe you wake up once, but you're still breathing contaminated air in a forest controlled by your opponent. That's a death sentence with extra steps. Wood release Great Forest. Great Forest technique is one of those bread-and-butter wood release abilities that demonstrates exactly why this Kekkei Genkai is so terrifying. The mechanic here is fascinating because it's fundamentally different from most jutsu. You're not creating wood externally. You're converting your own biological matter into plant life, then stimulating rapid growth to extend the branches at high speed. Once activated, those branches fork into multiple limbs, giving you insane reach and crowd control options. You can capture enemies by wrapping them up, or sharpen the branch tips into stakes for lethal piercing attacks. That versatility alone makes this technique combat gold. Yamato demonstrated the utility side perfectly when infiltrating Orochimaru's hideout. He found a tiny crack in the wall, squeezed wood through it, then expanded the growth into a square shape, large enough for his entire team to pass through. But here's where the power ceiling gets absolutely stupid. Hashirama's version during the Fourth Shinobi World War. The man created a massive hand-shaped wooden appendage, large enough to grapple one of the Ten Tails fission clones. The difference between Yamato and Hashirama's wood release comes down to chakra reserves. Comparing Yamato's pool to Hashirama's is like comparing a pond to an ocean. Same technique, completely different scale. That's the horror of Great Forest technique in the hands of someone with god-tier chakra. Wood release. Hobi. This is peak defensive engineering, disguised as a simple dome. And it gets nowhere near the respect it deserves in power-scaling conversations. Hobi technique is Hashirama's answer to what if I need to tank literally anything. And the technique delivers on that promise in the most absurd way possible. The setup is clean. You create a dome-shaped structure that looks like a dragon's face, completely surrounding yourself. The structure references Ryutoki from Japanese mythology, which features an Oni face with a dragon wrapped around the torso. This weakens incoming attacks while protecting whoever's inside. The feat that proves how disgusting this jutsu is. Hashirama used this dome to nullify Kurama's tailed beast ball, a full-power tailed beast ball from the Nine Tails, the strongest tailed beast in existence. and Hashirama walked out without a scratch. That's not durability. That's damage negation at the highest level. The dome splits down the middle on command too. So you're not trapped inside your own defense, like some jutsu force you to be. What separates Hobie from generic defensive techniques is the chakra efficiency combined with protection quality. Creating one dome requires way less chakra than maintaining Susanoo or summoning multiple Rashomon gates. But the defensive payoff rivals both. Hote technique. Hashirama spawns gigantic wooden hands, each one the size of a tailed beast, erupting from the ground to cage enemies. The flex here. He doesn't even need hand seals for this. Just sheer will. 2 massive hands. No prep time. Mayfly. This is a stealth technique, and it is absolutely lethal in the information war. This ability is a signature infiltration technique of White Zetsu and his clones, made possible because they are infused with Hashirama Senju's cells. That detail matters. Hashirama's cells are what give them the organic compatibility to merge directly with nature itself. Mayfly allows the user to literally fuse their body with the ground and surrounding plant life, then travel at extremely high speeds through the underground network of organic matter. We're talking plant roots, water veins, and the entire natural infrastructure beneath the battlefield. Yeah, it's biological integration. White Zetsu's plant-like shell, infused with his chakra, is what enables this fusion. Once merged, he can move through soil, trees, and even sand without leaving any trace. And here's the scary part. His presence becomes completely undetectable. Even elite sensor-type ninja like Karen cannot sense him once he's fully integrated into the environment. That makes Mayfly absolutely perfect for close-range espionage. He can hide inside a tree, beneath the battlefield, or within the terrain itself, while gathering information in real time. It gets even more strategic. If a White Zetsu chooses not to move, he can connect himself to nearby plant root networks and transmit information to other Zetsu units. That turns the entire natural world into a communication grid. Mayfly isn't about raw power. It's about control, positioning, and invisible dominance over the battlefield. And in large-scale wars, that kind of silent mobility is insanely valuable. Multiple wood release clone. Multiple wood release clone technique is basically the large-scale evolution of the standard wood clone technique. But the scale is what makes it absolutely dangerous. Instead of forming just one or a few clones from the user's own chakra, this technique uses pre-existing vegetation in the immediate area as the medium. Trees, plants, surrounding flora. All of it becomes raw material. That means the user can instantly generate a massive number of wood clones as long as nature is present. It's efficient, it's scalable, and in forest terrain, it becomes overwhelmingly oppressive. The battlefield literally turns against you. Wood release, secret technique, nativity of a world of trees. This is the technique that built Konohagakure. Let that sink in for a second. Hashirama literally created the foundation of an entire hidden village with one jutsu. That's the scale we're operating on here. And it's why this technique is absolutely insane, from both a combat and utility perspective. Nativity of a world of trees is Hashirama's signature forest creation technique. And the key word here is dense. We're talking about a growth so thick and violent that it splits the earth open as it emerges. The life force behind these trees is astronomical. They don't just grow around obstacles. They pierce straight through them like they're tissue paper. This makes the technique obscenely effective at battlefield control. The growth speed is fast enough to capture targets mid-movement, which is absolutely broken when you consider Hashirama can manipulate their direction with his chakra. And here's the part that proves how ridiculous this jutsu is. Nobody else has replicated it at this scale. Not Yamato with Hashirama's cells. Not Madara or Obito with stolen DNA. Only Hashirama himself could create an entire forest that became the infrastructure for Konoha, the village's layout, the wooden architecture, the natural defenses, all from this one technique. That's not combat effectiveness. That's literal nation building. Wood release cutting technique. The technique itself is deceptively simple. You produce sharp wooden spikes from your body. But here's where it gets nasty. You can either use them as makeshift close-range weapons, like a wooden sword sprouting from your arm, or launch them as projectiles. The real horror show starts when those projectiles hit their target. The branches multiply inside the victim's body once they pierce through. Think about that mechanic for a second. You're not just getting stabbed. You're getting internally shredded as wood grows and branches out inside you. Obito demonstrated this perfectly during his rampage against those Kirigakure shinobi right after Rin's death. The technique has legitimate range flexibility, close quarters, stabbing, or mid-range projectiles, which makes it adaptable to almost any combat scenario. The power ceiling on this got absolutely insane during the Ten Tails fight. Obito channeled this technique through the Ten Tails' tails after strengthening control over the beast using Hashirama's DNA. That's scaling a personal technique to kaiju-level proportions. When you can take a jutsu designed for single-target assassination and blow it up to battlefield-wide devastation, that's top-tier technique design. Wood release, Fu Dog Heads. Fu Dog Heads is specifically engineered for one job, draining tailed beast chakra. That's it. That's the entire purpose. And it does that job disgustingly well. The mechanic is straightforward. You produce the sit kanji on your palm, slam it into the ground, and wooden pillars, with Fu Dog faces carved into them, shoot out toward the target. Once those pillars make contact, they start siphoning chakra directly from the tailed beast. The absorption rate is what makes this technique genuinely oppressive. Wood Release's chakra-absorbing capability comes from its connection to the God Tree, which means it naturally drains chakra on contact. But this effect gets amplified against tailed beasts, since they're derived from the same chakra source. The more power a tailed beast exerts, the stronger the absorption becomes. Wood Release 4-Pillar Prison. This is Yamato's signature move. And honestly, it's the perfect example of a utilitarian jutsu that's way smarter than people give it credit for. The core mechanic is simple. You convert chakra into timber underground, then grow it rapidly into a wooden prison. The genius part is the scalability. From an insect cage to a great prison, you can adjust the size based on how much chakra you pump into it. That's efficiency at its finest. Need to capture one person, small cage. Need to lock down multiple targets, scale it up. The chakra to function ratio here is legitimately outstanding. What makes this jutsu genuinely oppressive is the chakra coating on the wood itself. That coating makes the structure incredibly difficult to destroy, which is huge when you're trying to detain someone who can spam jutsu. Weaker wood release techniques are vulnerable to lightning release. But the reinforced nature of 4-Pillar Prison means it can actually tank more punishment than standard wood release. The versatility is what elevates this from decent capture jutsu to essential battlefield tool. Wartime prisoner detention. Disciplinary action for subordinates. Acting out. Emergency. Shelter. Construction. This technique handles all of it. It's the Swiss Army knife of wood release. Wood release serial pillar houses. Serial pillar houses technique is where Yamato spawns multiple buildings at once. But the chakra drain is so brutal, it exhausts him almost instantly. After Pain nuked Konoha with Shinra Tensei, Yamato was crucial in rebuilding the village with this jutsu. The problem: everyone kept overworking him because of his wood release, demanding more construction despite him being completely drained after making just a street of houses. Dude became the village contractor against his will. It's utility tier wood release. Not flashy, not combat ready, but absolutely vital for infrastructure. Yamato's the reason Konoha didn't stay rubble. Wood release, wood locking wall. Wood release, wood locking wall is Yamato's bread and butter defensive move. And honestly, it's one of the smarter wood release applications out there. This technique activates roots in the ground using the user as a reference point, making wooden pillars appear from left and right that join together into a dome shape with the user at the center. What makes this technique clutch is its dual functionality. If you're fighting someone at close range, you can lock them up inside the dome with you, trapping them in a double-sided attack scenario. Cage match. No escape. But it also works as emergency defense. It functions as easy shelter against long-distance attacks, like the shockwave from Naruto's version 2 state. That's not some weak chakra blast. That's Ninetales' cloak energy. And Yamato's dome held up. Alright? That's it for today. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time.